Hi everyone, and welcome to another astrological update. In this recording, I'm going to be speaking about the energy of the present moment, where we have a really delicate and psychologically not very easy T-square in the sky. This is where Mars in its home sign of Scorpio, so extremely strong and potent, holds a square with Saturn, and it also opposes Uranus. So basically, both Uranus and Mars are squaring Saturn. Now, this energy is not very easy even to interpret because Mars is extremely powerful in its home sign of Scorpio. In this part of the sky, Mars, the activator, the male principle, the initiator, the symbol of basically war, gets on an even more intense quality than it does in its other home sign of Aries. The big difference between the two expressions of Mars is that Aries is the sign of the first breath, so it is an extremely spontaneous initiator. Aries acts with embracing the moment, embracing that very second of bravery, of initiation, of asserting its sovereignty and its sovereign will, basically. Whereas in the sign of Scorpio, Mars can be much more subtle. It is basically super focused and concentrated to achieve what it desires. So that means that it's even capable quite comfortably to act in certain ways which are not necessarily specific to its planetary symbolism in order to get what it wants, where it wants to go, or manifest what it desires. So basically, Mars in the sign of Scorpio can basically master even patience, tactical planning, to bring a lot of rational energy before one acts. And this is basically not so specific to Mars, especially, in its other home sign of Aries. But in Scorpio and even in its exalted sign of Capricorn, it is able to embody the self-discipline and the power over the self in order to be triumphant, because basically that is the main goal. If we say that Mars in Scorpio is the treasure seeker's energy, well, you can imagine that in order to find a treasure, one has to be very adaptable, very versatile. One needs to make compromises. One needs to support situation outside of the comfort zone quite a lot, because the main goal, the main focus of the treasure is that much more worth it. And why are all of these behaviors of Mars so important right now? Well, it is because it just doesn't leave us alone. This isn't where a period of time when we can very easily dismiss, very suppress our needs, wants, desires, or whatever is inspired to us through our instincts. And at the same time, because of this state, we're very, very irritable and triggered. We basically find it very uncomfortable not to be in that state of focus, in that state of singularity, so anything can irritate us. But on the other hand, because Uranus is in this picture very, very active, because it opposes Mars, the activator, well, this is where everything just randomly, unexpectedly, chaotically comes in our way. Random inconveniences, unexpected twists and turns of events in the very last minute. Our plans might be really disrupted at this time. And if that wasn't enough, there is the Saturn and Uranus square, which basically almost slaves drive us, forces us to try our hardest every single moment to overcome our limitation, to step into the new, to express our authenticity. So there is this big elevated goal, this very high frequency motivation energy in the background, which of course isn't felt through as such, because it's felt through as constant anxiety to finally achieve that breakthrough, in order for us to get into a state of being where we actually feel that we're doing the job, we're doing the work, we are advancing, we are basically accomplishing it, working towards it. Yet at the same time, we also feel so very tired and sick of it already. We also want to rest. We also want to just be and be left alone by all the problems. So this is a very, very heavy cocktail of energies. And the way it can manifest in this present moment, because the Mars and Saturn square is being perfected right now. And if that wasn't enough, Mercury is also in the picture, because Mercury is tightly conjunct Mars. So that means that Mercury holds the same type of celestial conversation. So this energy can influence us in so very many ways. For some people, it can come through as pessimism, regardless of how optimistic or happy or, positive you are by nature or as a result of your inner work. This energy can really rub pessimism into our wounds, because this is also the energy of a reality check. So physical reality, down to earth matters kind of scream at us that we don't have too much reason to be all that optimistic, because real life is knocking on our doors right now. And this pessimism can very quickly escalate to a small episode of depression or powerlessness, strong frustration, or just the feeling of being totally, absolutely lost. Because, Mercury conjunct Mars, what you want and your vision of all of it, where you want to go, where you see yourself, that is very, very clear. So there's no problems with what you want, and there's no problems with you having your own plans, knowing who you are, what you desire, why you desire. That is picture perfectly clear. But perhaps how are you going to accomplish that under the present moment circumstances? That is where the confusion lies. Because life right now, physical reality right now, the external reality, so to speak, is definitely not a player, not a good player, not a very good teammate. Quite the contrary, it might seem that it's the most tough and ruthless opponent right now. But on the other hand, this energy can also manifest in a totally different kind of way. For some people, this can trigger very, very strong anxieties. Uranus, whenever it is super activated, well, it translates into a very unusual kind of anxiety where you're feeling like, at least physically, your nervous system is always on watch, as in always in a state of alert, always in a state of readiness to act, to jump, to react, and you don't even know why. You have no explanation for this. So life under these moments can truly feel like the Twilight Zone, where it's all so very, very weird. Whenever we have these aspects, that also automatically means the Schumann resonance is spiking, it is all times high, and this also in physical reality represents tectonic movement, earthquakes, seismic activities, weird weather phenomenon, solar flares, cosmic rays, anything like that. So that also adds an element of stress to the nervous system, because we're still connected to nature, so we feel these things even if they don't happen, let's say, in our region. We do feel them, deep in our bones. And yet it can also have an even more intense expression, if this makes sense, where we kind of feel one way or another obsessed to get where we want to get, to have what we desire, to execute our sovereign wills, whatever that might be. and we might not be feeling very capable to make compromises, to adapt, to solve certain situations and inconveniences in a very diplomatic and peaceful manner. We might feel as if we are like a wrecking ball which just wants to do its job, wants to get where it needs to be, and everything that might be perceived as an obstacle or as an irritant or as an inconvenience, we might not help ourselves but just lash out any way we can. So because all of these reasons, this energy can be so very psychologically, emotionally, mentally, and even physically disruptive right now. Now, of course, when a problem basically is written in the stars, the solution is also written in the stars, but the solution is not very simple right now, because the counter to this energy, to the irritation, to the frustration, to the anxiety, to the fears, panic, and just feeling so lost, while feeling so very found at the same time, because we do feel quite found within ourselves. And this is basically the Sun and Neptune trine, which is a graceful, inspirational, highly Neptunian, divine energy enveloping us and also being so very alive from within us, but we might not really know what to do with it right now, because Neptune is very inspirational. It's all about faith, it's all about our dreams. Then we also have Jupiter there, everything that has to do with strong belief, and also a very non-rational, non-logical type of knowledge, where, we just know things because our faith kind of inspires it. And this is absolutely wonderful, but neither Neptune or Jupiter can do that much without Saturn. And by this, I don't necessarily mean as in celestial conversations, degrees and orbs and stuff like that, but basically the principle that they embody. Saturn, contrary to the beliefs of most people, is also a highly spiritual energy. Yes, it is density. Yes, it is that spiritual expression, basically in its most contracted and most dense expression. But basically that means that we have to embody it. The key to manifesting it, the key to living it, feeling it, experiencing it on our own skin, is to embody our faith. And embodying our faith or beliefs, principles, ideals, anything like that, both the Neptunian or the Jupiterian expression, well, that kind of represents the need for a certain kind of sacrifice or strong work being put into embodying our faith. So basically right now we have our faith, our inspiration, the divine, that Neptune and Jupiter, very strong. So this kind of inspires us to believe with every fiber of our beings and our goals, dreams, spirituality, faith, etc. Basically Jupiter in Aquarius, our future, the future that we are constructing, building, fighting for, manifesting, call it whatever you want right now. And of course there is Neptune in the sign of Pisces in the third decan. Everything is possible. Or let's say Pisces can represent the distant past. So basically, history from a very spiritual perspective, of course, can prove to us, show us that miracles are not even uncommon. There is basically no religious movement or even spiritual ideological movement which doesn't have at least one example of a miracle or anything of such nature. Yet, no miracle or no big, basically manifestation of the spirit or miraculous turnaround of events have taken place without initially a crisis being in the picture, something really either chaotic, unusual, severe, something very, very bad, a bad situation, an urgent need or necessity that preceded any kind of miracle. So there was the need for that miracle to take place. And perhaps this emotional, psychological turmoil, however this plays out in our lives right now, it can be seen as the crisis moment, which kind of attempts to provoke this miracle, this unexpected, divinely orchestrated turnaround of events. For example, somehow, some way, actually getting what you want, even if it seems not so very possible. Or a totally different kind of expression of the scorpionic energy, where it really, really enlivens, and I mean, not just evokes the memory of our traumas, but enlivens it in the sense that one way or another we might have the tendency right now to reenact them. And of course, this might make us think right now that I thought that was healed, I thought I was over it, but look how much I'm actually not over it. How much the trauma, bad memory, whatever is still alive inside of me. How much it breaks me or influences me even right now. So how am I gonna basically heal myself? So for some people, the expression of Mars is actually the healing. How do I get better? How do I not allow this trauma to influence me? What exactly do I do to embrace a greater stage of healing? Because maybe nothing that I tried until this moment worked in a very proficient manner, because otherwise I wouldn't be having these reenactment moments. And also because we have this Mercury and Mars conjunction, this is the energy of honesty. This is the energy of like unapologetic, raw, brutal honesty, especially with ourselves. So, optimism and positivity don't work very well at this time, because the focus is to be honest, to own up, to admit ourselves the most delicate, most hard to admit, hard to look at truths. Everything that we feel at the very core of our being. And some of those emotions are not pleasant at all. Some of those emotions are very shadowy. For example, envy, jealousy, the inability to find forgiveness or resentment. All of these can be part of this truth. So it's healing is there definitely. That's the big picture. That's what Scorpio is all about. Regeneration, the Phoenix moment. But the journey to get there, the process, Saturn, the square to Saturn, it is very, very, very difficult. And it's also painful, it's also uncomfortable. And maybe in this present moment, there is no escape from this healing process, the painful part of the healing journey. And this energy can come through quite torturous right now, because as I said, there is that Sun and Neptune trine. It's all about dreams, fantasy, escapism, maybe escapism in faith, escapism in optimism, escapism in dreams and fantasies and desires. So there is that energy coming in very, very strongly. And at the same time, there's also this very bitter reality check. There is this genuine need to heal, to finally be free of our shackles, our burdens, shame, guilt, everything that might basically keep us from living life authentically, freely, unapologetically. But at the same time, there is this irresistible, alluring, charming, almost hypnotic promise of the new life, promise of the healed state, promise of being free of all the inner burdens. So basically, which inner calling do we follow? Can we follow both at the same time? Can we be brutally honest with ourselves and look at our pain and shadow, but at the same time be immersed in the promise and dream and fantasy of being healed and being immersed in our dreams and fantasies and all of that. So the key here is balance, and the key here is for us to truly embody the alchemist within our lives right now, because Scorpio is all about alchemy, and we have all of these different alchemical elements in our souls, in our lives right now. There is that very strong Neptune, the essence of dreams and hope and fantasy and everything that we could potentially do with our lives, the beauty of it, the magic of it, the miracle of it. There is also this Jupiter. Everything points to the conclusion that we need to believe it very, very strongly. We need to embody our faith, and we need to invest it in the future, Aquarius. And then also we have the Saturn. And right now the moon is actually conjunct Saturn. So it's a very bitter reality check. We are aware of every limitation. We are aware of everything that is working against us, may that be inner or outer forces. Everything in our lives that is not ideal, that is not permissive of us to live our dreams or healed state or whatever. And then at the same time we have this huge inner power, Mars in the sign of Scorpio, and also Mercury conjunct. And that is almost like the sulfur, the alchemical sulfur, the burning, the desire, the reactor, all the fuel, all the fire, all the passionate energy, the inner pressure which kind of forces these components to cook into one single element of manifestation, let's say. But this is exactly the Saturnian hard part. If we don't take the most balanced, authentic and inspired action, whatever that is for us specifically, basically the act of transmutation, then all of these components, these elements are gonna stay in their original form, untransmuted, uncooked. The concoction is not gonna be there because we cannot find the appropriate balance, the pressure, everything that the inner reactor needs. But if we do the work, if we experiment, if we not give up, if we try our hardest to find what balance in this moment is for us personally, balance between the faith, the Neptune, the Jupiter, and then the Saturn, and also the trigger, Mars, and the stressor, Uranus, the chaos. If we try and put all of this to good use, we can one way or another definitely have a moment of breakthrough in this Scorpio season. And there are so many other celestial conversation and upcoming energies to help us do exactly that. For example, very soon we have a lunar eclipse in the sign of Taurus, which is also very Scorpionic because the sun will illuminate Taurus from the sign of Scorpio. And it's squared by Jupiter, so that means powerful expansion and an infusion of really, really strong mental, cerebral, intellectual energy. So we all already know that what we need to put to the table to balance this out is heart energy, living from the heart space. And every single lunar eclipse is like a big reset. It is like a massive karmic culmination. And that can very well represent breakthrough as well. Of course, not easy, not a walk in the park, let's say. But exactly the hardship of all is what a big breakthrough is all about. That's why it's big. That's why it's significant. Because we worked for it. We sacrificed for it. It's intense. It basically elevates us to highs which we never knew we had within us. And then the rest of December is gonna support this breakthrough energy. Of course, even with chaos, even with a little bit of doom and gloom perhaps, and also a lot of emotional confusion, Venus retrograde in Capricorn, We are gonna be so very confused with our feelings, what we love, why we love it. And, with the Capricornian energy, the big question is gonna be, is it worth it? Is the sacrifice, is the work, patience, tolerance worth it for what we love? And how do we answer this question? Because, when we ask ourselves, is it worth it? That's one of the most complicated and delicate questions ever, because there is an intellectual side, there is a rational side, we have to weigh it. There is an emotional side, and the emotional side isn't always rational. It isn't very hard to understand. There is a psychological side, because we also have to go back to the past and see how we felt in this and that situation, what kind of happened to us, what happened to our emotions. And then, of course, there is a Plutonian side to this, a moment of raw, brutal honesty. We also have to take into consideration our shadow. When Pluto conjuncts Venus, it can be vanity, it can be greed, it can be jealousy, it can be the desire for power, let's say, and those are part of us, and they're not gonna go anywhere. So we have to integrate them. We cannot dismiss them, or let's say just cut off their heads, Medusa, the symbolism of Medusa. They will grow back. So the shadow is the shadow. It's there to stay. So we have to find a way to integrate it. So a big moment is definitely going to be Venus retrograde for us this December. So as hard, as complicated, as confusing, as tiresome, as draining this whole process may be for us, we must always remember that right now, especially in Scorpio season, we are the alchemist, and we have to do everything within our power to stay focused, to stay in the frequency, to embody the singularity of Mars, the intensity and the passion of Mars in Scorpio, but in a healthy way, and that is not easy to accomplish. And at the same time to give our own personal tribute to that Saturn in the sign of Aquarius, and to do all of this, and this being for some people it's more like a healing journey, for other reinvention, a resurrection, a rebirth, for others getting what they want, for others breakthrough, for others so very many things that can be related to the sign of Scorpio. Like, for example, for some people it's definitely financial of nature, or for others psychological, like self-worth. It doesn't really matter what. What matters is that due to this Saturn and Uranus square, we have to do this our own unique way, and chances are the karmic forces are not gonna allow us, neither they are not gonna support us to do it the easy way. And the easy way might be with someone's help, let's say a coach, a trainer, a guru. The easy may be we read something, we learn something, we learn to master something, and we apply that outer knowledge. Or the easy way is cookie cutter, where we just know a certain kind of know-how or modus operandi that we execute, and the results are going to be guaranteed. None of this will be available to us, because we had in December 2020 the great conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter at 0 degrees of Aquarius, and what that energy means for each and every one of us generally, as in the same expression for every living human being on the planet right now, is that we have to do it our own way. And our own way is within us, so we have to discover it. We have to trust it. We have to go with our own flow this time. The external customs, traditions, the invention of other people, how other people do it, even if it's like a strictly academic way, is unfortunately not going to work this time. It helps. It inspires. It basically shows us the standards, the limits, etc. It's a source of wisdom and knowledge, yes. but we still have to find our own way, because there is no possible way to cheat our way out of this. Like it or not, we really have to do things our way. And the more honest we are with ourselves, and the more we embrace the shadow as well, the quicker all of this is gonna take place. Because doing something our way, well, the requirements of this is, first of all, to know who we are, to know who we are not, to know who we aspire to become, to know our shadow, to know our weaknesses, to know our strengths, to know our wounds, to know our potential, but also our limitations. So that is why all throughout 2021, the sky in its integrity, with all its tumultuous celestial conversations, was preparing us for this moment, teaching us, showing us, reflecting us, or giving us the means to discover who we truly are, and of course, who we are truly not. And this was super intense around June with the Gemini eclipse season. But those of us who truly embodied that energy and went with the flow and not resisted the hardships of it are now really, really aware of, let's say, who we are. Of course, not in a perfect way, because what that Gemini eclipse was all about, that it raised the awareness that, look, we are who we feel that we are, who we know that we are, but at the same time we're also our conditioned self, our education, upbringing, customs, traditions, etc., etc. That is not truly who we are. Yes, it is something conditioned. It is maybe for some people even a lie, but we cannot undo it, and we have to accept that and embrace that and integrate that. And even though it's not like true, it's one way or another a conditioning, it is still part of our journeys, it is still part of our identities, and for a reason. So armed with that wisdom, with that knowledge, with that clarity with the self, honesty with the self, this is how we do things our own way, our own unique way. And this is how we truly tap into our ingenuity, the inner genius within us, Uranus. And this is why, symbolically speaking, we have all this disruption in social media and every other source of information. The universe doesn't even want to make that any clearer. The universe doesn't even want to send us help. It wants social media and every other sources of info and knowledge to be as confusing and as chaotic and as deceitful as maximally possible, because it helps us by that. We know that that's not going to help us. It's full of lies, it's full of deception, it's full of, business ideas and stuff like that. So we naturally disconnect from that, and we have no choice but to seek for answers, for solutions, for plans within ourselves. So the universe is actually helping us. We may see that Neptunian expression of everything is full of lies, manipulation, psychological warfare. Yes, that is true, but it's not a bad thing, really. It's like when, taking a jar and mixing your child's most favorite candy in with another candy which the child hates with passion. So you can imagine that the child will go and select from the jar the candy that he loves and leave the rest. And when there's nothing else to pick out, he will leave the jar as it is. Yes, it's candy, but that candy which is in the jar is no longer usable for the child, so he will have to seek other sources. So if the internet and all the knowledge, all the methodology, all the information on the internet is like that jar of candy, we already selected what works for us, what we could have used, and the rest is BS. The rest is toxin, the rest makes us sick. So the fact that the world out there, informationally speaking, and the internet especially, is so full of bad things, it's actually a good thing because we have no choice but to embody Uranus, to use the Uranian energy. And even when we seek for someone on the internet, we cannot base ourselves on, recommendations and adverts and stuff like that. We still have to use Uranus as the universe to synchronistically get the most perfect professional person, a job, or an object which we want to purchase, whatever our ways. So even when using the internet, we still use our power, we still use our Uranian strength to randomly, coincidentally, synchronistically, by trusting our superior self, our higher self, to manifest the precise person, thing, source of information, book, course, whatever that we need. In this day and age, the internet doesn't, at least for us who are doing the scorpionic expression of this energy, the internet for us is not what it used to be. It isn't like a quick fix to all of our problems. It is just a, let's say, casting stage, a manifestation stage. It works just like real life. If you want something, first you need to look within yourself, ask the universe to give you that, and then wait for the synchronicity. So basically, the fact that the internet is so chaotic and everything in our lives, if we look at the big picture, or we see our situation from heaven's eyes, from heaven's perspective, it's not all that bad. It's just forcing us to be inventive, to be authentic, and it's basically forcing us to, symbolically, to be understood, to use our magics and have no other choice but to trust it. And it works like a charm. Maybe most of us are still, let's say, experiencing more minor manifestations of this, where, you manifest it, but it doesn't help you that much. But if you do this in every single thing in your life, well, you can imagine that this slowly but surely turns into your normality. Even your nervous system gets used to that. Is that when you want something, when you want to achieve something, etc., first of all, you actually take the Uranian way of doing it, looking within yourself and appealing to the ingenuity of your mind to come up with something, and then matching it with something that is already out there. And then that's the key to success. And it also has your authenticity and uniqueness, your energetic signature, basically, on it, whatever that is. Also, this is how we profoundly changed as well. Maybe before, when we wanted to get or achieve something or whatever, let's say manifest something, we kind of really had to focus a lot on that and make plans and plan Bs. And there was an element of doubt there. But, let's take a look at ourselves today, now, who we are right now. It's almost like when there's something that we want, automatically our mind, our present mindset, is already wired in a different way. Whenever we're full of wants and we need this and that, our first thought, our first instinct or impulse will manifest it. And this is so very different than it was maybe 2 years ago even for some people like me who have basically done magic all their lives and studied the occult, metaphysics or whatever. It's still so different. It's almost like you have this instinctual trust and knowledge in the back of your mind, even in your unconscious, that of course you're gonna manifest it. It's normal. That is basically the best way to go about things. And also, if you look back, the self-defeating thoughts and I'm not good enough and stuff like that, even if they're there, they no longer have roots deep within you. So any doubt that you might have doesn't really disrupt or disturb your deep faith that of course you're going to manifest it. And of course, very quickly, especially if it's not like a very big thing, or a big life change, let's say. If it's like something kind of smaller, it manifests very quickly, and I'm very 100% sure that it's the same for everyone, basically. Like an example, you're really curious about something, and you just manifest a person, an acquaintance, a friend, someone who will actually open that subject and tell you stuff about it, or recommend something to you, give you a book, or like you really need something very quickly and now, and someone just gives it to you, a neighbor or an acquaintance, or I don't know, and you're kind of surprised that you didn't even get the chance to do something physically to get it, and it's already in your possession or whatever. And when you get a lot of this, it becomes the norm. You get used to it. This is your new modus operandi. So what I'm actually trying to say here is things are so tough and difficult and quite painful even, especially on a 3D level and especially collectively speaking. But if we truly think about what it did to us, to our lives, to our mindset, and how much it truly changed us, how much it truly healed us, it isn't and it wasn't all that bad. And we can see that no matter what happens, it still kind of leads to a more positive and authentic and truer direction for everyone, especially if that is what we focus on. We have the option to focus on the doom and gloom, and it's bad and it's never gonna get better, and the future of our children is already ruined, and how possibly could it get better? No one and nothing can be trusted. Well, yes, that might be a part of physical reality, but at the same time, look at yourself. Maybe 2 years ago you weren't an alchemist, and now you are. Maybe a few years ago you couldn't have done anything that you can do right now, and some of these are not like spiritual gifts. Some people became artists, painters, singers. We discovered so very many talents within ourselves in this short period of time, especially during the crisis. So that part is also undeniable. So it's not just doom and gloom. And there is genuine hope that if we can manifest so very many small things, and of course for some people profound life changes for them personally, all of us together, even without being connected, actively speaking, even without being part of tribes and being friends on the internet or whatever, just holding the desire of freedom and harmony and love and all of that is enough to make sure that there are enough people on the planet to manifest that future. So this concludes today's recording. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for being here. And most importantly, thank you so much for doing the work, for being yourself and not giving up. I know this is a delicate and quite painful period, but look at what you achieved already and dare to be amazed, because what you have done already. So that is already done. That is already manifested, processed, executed, call it however you want. Well, it's pretty miraculous. So basically, yeah, of course, look at the hard to bear truth and the pains and all of that, but also look at the greatness that has already played out in your life without even a shadow of doubt. And that's not stopping, and that's not going anywhere. It happened for a reason. So let that give you the faith and the determination to keep on being the alchemist that you already are. So thank you once again. I wish everyone a blessed week. Stay strong and don't give in to fear. Until next time, bye for now.